Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Gul Knowledge Hub. Welcome my YouTube family to your own channel, which is Gul Knowledge Hub. Today's topic is how should we start learning a new language, because this is the basic problem, and there are many problems and difficulties, rather fears, when we start a new language, when we start to learn a new language. So how should we start? This is the basic question often asked by my students, and I am going to relate this question and I am going to answer this question in the most effective way. If you are beginner or if you are in the process of learning a new language, this video is specially for you, because Aristotle, a Grecian philosopher around 3000 BC, says that well begun is half done. This is very much important. If you start a thing properly, it will end properly. And a Chinese classic, which is of my favorite, says that the journey of 1,000 miles starts with a single step. You have to need to take the step. You need to initiate the step. But the problem here arises is that how should we start? How should we start learning a language in a proper way? And the answer is that you have to start it properly, so that it ends in a proper form, in a proper way. As Aristotle said that well begun is half done. If you start a thing, if you start learning a language in a proper way, in a systematic way, it will end in a proper and in a well-mannered way. So let's begin with the language learning, especially of English. If you are learning any language of the world, this video is for you, because the starting point is the most important point, and often we don't have this basic how to start a new process. How should we start a new language learning? So first of all, my first suggestion is that get the overview of grammar. Don't try to memorize that. Don't try to learn that. Just have an overview of that. And don't try to learn the basic questions. How old are you? What's your name? No, you don't need to learn these expressions, because they don't occur in our daily conversation. You just need to get into the language, get into the content, to familiarize with the content. For this, you have to learn high frequency vocabulary. And what is meant by high frequency vocabulary? It means that the words, the verbs which are continuously occurring in our daily life, you have to memorize them. For this, you have to read mini stories, read books, and listen newscast, podcast. Just don't try to cram the conjugational rules, the grammatical errors, the grammatical rules, because they will confuse you and they will make you realize that learning English language is very difficult. Just do reading, just go into the content, just get into the language. When you start reading, and by reading it comes to a certain level, you are well familiarized with the language, and you see that certain expressions are absorbed into your personality, and you automatically produces those sentences. So how should we start? This is the question, and we should start in a proper way. We should start from reading mini stories. We should start from reading books. We should start with reading, with listening. We don't have to memorize anything. We don't have to memorize grammatical rules, especially grammatical rules, because grammatical rules and the conjugational rules are the grammar of any language, makes you think that this language is very difficult. You just have to read the books, read the mini books, read the storybooks and cartoonistic. You have to watch cartoons, because in cartoons there is very simple language. And if you start reading, after a certain period of time, it seems to you that you are quite familiar with the language. You are rather get into the language. You rather are get into the content. and it seems very much possible, because if you experience and if you watch a child born in an English society, he automatically listens and then produces sentences. This is very much, he does not remember grammatical rules, he even don't know, he does not know the word grammar, but he is fluently speaking those words. The reason is that he is getting into the language, he is getting into the content rather than memorizing the rules. If you watch any child born in his specific society, he naturally and automatically learns to speak that language. Not because of grammatical rules, not because of grammar, but because of listening and often by reading. When we read, we absorb. When we read, we absorb the language, the expression, the words, the vocabulary, each and everything is absorbed in us. We make sense of the language, and when we make sense of the language, this is the initial point and it is the proper way to start a new language. Hope you have understood how should we start language, how should we start to learn English language. English language is very much important, and we don't have to cram, we don't have to memorize grammatical rules. Where is present tense, what are the rules of past and what are the rules of modal verbs, each and everything, what are direct, indirect, what are passive and active. You don't have to memorize these, you just have to get into reading, get into mini books. You just have to listen. By listening and by reading, you will be in a position to produce sentences, and this is the good and initial point which you can easily do this, and this is the proper way to start a language. And if you start in this way, Aristotle saying that well begun is half done becomes good. So if you like the video, kindly share and subscribe it. Thank you so much. Have a nice day.